So today we're going to go over one of the more interesting psychological and physiological kind of aspects of being a person, which is hunger. And hunger motivation, we specifically focus in on this because it kind of takes everything. It takes this biopsychosocial approach that we've been kind of approaching psychology with and wraps it all into one very, very easily. So we're going to talk about the research on hunger today and our motivations for hunger. So there's a very famous study by Washburn that shows how hunger comes about and how you get your feelings of hunger. And what would happen is Washburn quite literally would swallow a balloon, and then the balloon would expand and contract to cause stomach pangs. And then he would hit a key every time that he felt a pang. And they kind of found that the physical contractions and expansions of the stomach can trigger hunger. But to kind of throw a wrench into that, they found that rats that quite literally had their stomachs removed still wanted to eat. So there's a little more than just the physical, you want food and you eat. Because if it was simply physical, we wouldn't care about taste. We wouldn't care about the social nature of eating. It wouldn't be such a big part of our culture. So what his findings found is that hunger exists both inside, physically in the stomach and in the body, but as well, there are other influences of the brain. There's social influences. There's a lot going into hunger. So body chemistry and the brain play a lot into hunger. The major energy source for humans and most other beings is glucose, and it's simply sugar. If you have a low glucose level, you're hungry. So all food that we eat, period, gets broken down into glucose at one time or another. So the stomach, the intestine, the liver, the brain, they all work together. They secrete different hormones that create your sensation of hunger. And they all work together to send physical symptoms like those stomach contractions, like the different hormones to the brain, where a section of the brain, one of those association areas that we have right here, then releases the hunger stimulating hormones, which tells you need to eat. We call this a feedback loop because all of them influence each other. The hormones, the neurotransmitters, the liver, the stomach can influence the brain can influence the liver and the stomach, and they form this loop. That loop is governed by the hypothalamus. It actually monitors that loop in our eating. So people who have an issue with their hypothalamus usually have issues with either appetite control or simply eating, period. So the lateral hypothalamus is an area in the brain, right? You can see right around here, that causes you to eat. This is what causes you to want to eat and have the drive to eat. If it's destroyed, you will stop eating. The ventromedial hypothalamus causes you to feel satisfied. If this is destroyed, you keep eating. So obviously this rat over here has had that destroyed, and you will just keep eating because you are not going to produce those signals that say, stop eating, you're done. So again, this goes back to those association areas where they have found a specific area of the brain that controls a specific function of the body. These are the different hormones and transmitters that allow us to understand or allow our body to understand our hunger. So most important, insulin comes from your pancreas. This actually controls your blood sugar. So people who are on diabetes are obviously not producing insulin, and they have to have it artificially delivered to control those glucose levels to know when they need to eat, when they need to stop eating, and to process it. Ghrelin is in the empty stomach. It's a hormone, increases hunger. Orexin, same thing. Hypothalamus, all right, it is a neurotransmitter that increases hunger. So you can see these two work together, one from the actual physical parts of the stomach and one from the brain. PYY, this is in your digestive tract, your intestines. This is a hormone. This decreases your hunger. It'll be secreted once, your intestines are full. You need to stop eating. And then leptin. This is secreted by your fat cells when they are full. When the fat cells are full, it decreases hunger as well. You will need to know these. So weight is an important part of hunger. We have to understand where our weight comes from. The body wants to maintain a homeostasis, a healthy weight, healthy temperature, and hunger is a major part of that. So we hover around what's called a set point. And this is our individual weight that our body wants to be at that helps control everything else, our metabolism, all that stuff. This is genetically determined. So somebody who is 5'9" could have a set point of 160 pounds, but then a different person could have a set point of 180 pounds, depending on muscle, fat, and just kind of family history. I put the APA definition on here, the American Psychological Association. This just explains it a little more in detail. Okay. So when you, your metabolism is what really determines your set point. How fast are you burning calories? How fast are you burning fat? Your basal metabolic rate, right? This is just the rate at which energy burns in your body. This is when you're doing nothing. So this is just when you're resting, how much energy is being burned. This decreases as you age. So that's why you guys at 15 and 16 can eat whatever you want, not do anything, and you still stay skinny overall, and you still stay at that, set point. But me, if I did that, I would put on weight so fast that I would be huge. Again, I put the APA definition down here. This is just the official definition from the American Psychological Association that you should take a look at. All right, now we get on to the psychology of hunger and eating. So taste preferences are really influenced by our biology and our culture. There are some things across all humans that we like. We like carbs, we like sweets. They actually boost serotonin in our body. And this is partly because they're energy producing. Our body wants us to like them. Things that are sweet are instant glucose. That's why you get that instant rush of energy. Or you see like a toddler eat a bunch of candy and they go crazy for a while and crash. So when we are in a stressed mood, we seek out those kinds of foods to give us energy. Sweet and salty is also genetic. So salty is also genetic because we need salt to survive. But conditioning can change our tastes based on where you lived, what you grew up with, and even the environment that you are in. So culture teaches us what foods are acceptable for us to eat. A great example of this in the United States, most people would never imagine eating a dog. But in some areas of Asia and some native cultures, dog is a perfectly acceptable meal because the culture says that. Our biology influences it. A lot of East Asian cultures, they do not eat cheese. They think it is disgusting that Europeans eat moldy milk. A lot of us, though, we love cheese. The durian fruit over here is a really good example. It smells apparently like something that is mixed with a burning tire and gasoline, but it's considered a delicacy in some cultures. Neophobia is part of this. We avoid new stimuli. A lot of people don't like new foods, and they think this could be a survival trait because it would help our ancestors avoid unknown toxins. They didn't know what that food is. They didn't know what that meat is. They didn't know what that berry was, so it was avoided in case it was toxic. If someone else showed it to you or you were able to get a little bite of it, you would lose that neophobia because then you would know it was safe. And again, that's just a theory to explain that. So there are some other influences on eating, our situation, the situational influences we call these. So this is called the ecology of eating. And this is what leads you to eat and influences your eating based on the nurture, your environment. So an arousing appetite, all right? Are we physically or psychologically aroused? We will eat more. People will eat more at sporting events. They will eat more at different kinds of parties just because that's something you do there. Socially influenced, friends and food. We eat more when we're with others. All cultures have some kind of feast that they do, And I think that's the perfect example. At Thanksgiving, people will way overeat what they normally do because it's socially accepted. Serving size. We eat more when we're offered more. If you have a larger plate and there's more food on it, you tend to eat more. The selections also play a part in this. When there's lots and a great variety of food, we want to try more. You see this in animals a lot. That's kind of the grazing effect. And then the most interesting, in my opinion, is nudging. You can place healthier options first. So let's say that you are at a line at a cafeteria and placed first is the fruits and vegetables. You will put more of them on your plate because your plate is empty. And then as you get to the unhealthier options and your plate begins to get full, you will place less of those on there because whatever is first, you have been nudged to eat first. So these all come together to influence how much we eat, what we eat, and the variety of foods that we eat. So the last piece is about obesity and weight control. I'm going to have you read this. It's actually really interesting, just like how weight control can be influenced by psychology. But that section is going to be up to you. It's up at the end of that mod. So if you have any questions, let me know. I know this was short, but I would highly suggest reading the mod as well and then going back and looking over the notes.